You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bashir, I'd like to ask you some questions about some statements of Michael Jackson that Judge Melville has deemed to be legal admissions. They are statements that were contained in your show. To obtain those statements, you told Michael Jackson he was underappreciated, true?
Objection, Your Honor. Covered by the Shield Law. Beyond the scope of direct, and covered by the First Amendment.
Just so you know, I was going to allow him to go outside of direct for these issues rather than have your client come back on some other date. There have been hearings outside the presence of the jury concerning these statements.
Your Honor, then I would request that Mr. Mesereau be limited to non-leading questions, since he will be handling this as a direct witness. And I'll continue to make my objections, but if he's going outside the scope, I would request that. Judge, I have a further comment. In fairness to Mr. Bashir, perhaps he should have the statements in front of him, so he knows which ones they are, since we've just watched an hour and a half of the video. He has the disadvantage from us, I think.
Well, I think the witness right now is Mr. Mesereau's. I'll allow him to conduct the examination as he chooses.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll repeat the question, Mr. Bashir. To obtain statements from Mr. Jackson, you told him he was underappreciated, correct?
Same objections, Your Honor. Plus, leading question.
The court will sustain the objection for ambiguity.
Mr. Bashir, to obtain an interview with Mr. Jackson, you told him you were a friend of Princess Diana, correct?
Same objections, Your Honor.
The objection being, when you say, same objection.
First, impermissible leading question. Beyond the scope of the direct elicited by the district attorney. In addition, it seeks unpublished information connected to newsgathering prepared and gained during newsgathering. Conversations with the source is newsgathering. So I would invoke the California Shield Law and the First Amendment.
Here's the problem. Mr. Mesereau. You're back to the general question on the whole tape, the whole thing. And my prior statement that the question was ambiguous is that he doesn't know what statements you're talking about. So.
I will.
If you would.
I could refer to some statements, Your Honor.
All right.
Sure. Mr. Bashir, in the show you prepared, which we've just seen, Mr. Jackson made statements to the effect that nothing sexual was going on in his bed, correct?
Correct.
To obtain the interview you had with Mr. Jackson when he made that statement, you told him that he was underappreciated, true?
Objection, Your Honor, on the Shield Law grounds and First Amendment grounds, unpublished information, and the tape that the jury has seen speaks for itself.
All right. The objection is overruled. Do you wish to answer that question?
I'm standing on the broadest privilege in the Shield Law, Your Honor.
Objection noted, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Bashir, in the show about Michael Jackson, Mr. Jackson says that nothing sexual went on in his bedroom. To obtain that statement, you told Mr. Jackson that your romantic development was partially shaped by his records, true?
Objection, Your Honor. Same grounds. First Amendment, Shield Law.
Do you wish to answer that question?
No, Your Honor.
All right. The objection is noted.
Mr. Bashir, on the show we just saw in this courtroom, Mr. Jackson says that nothing sexual goes on in his bedroom. To obtain that statement from Mr. Jackson, you told him that when you looked at his relationship with children, it almost made you weep, correct?
Same objections, Your Honor. California Shield Law and the First Amendment. And I object to that question as being ambiguous as well, the first phrase, to obtain that statement. Object to that.
The objection is overruled. Do you wish to answer that?
I don't, Your Honor.
Objection noted, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Bashir, on your show, Mr. Jackson says that nothing sexual ever went on in his bedroom. To obtain that statement from him, you told him that you believe in his vision of an international children's holiday, correct?
Same objections, Your Honor. The Shield Law and the First Amendment.
Overruled. Do you wish to answer that question?
I don't, Your Honor.
Objection noted, Your Honor.
Noted.
Mr. Bashir, in this interview you did of Michael Jackson, he says that nothing sexual went on in his bedroom. To obtain that statement, you told him, Neverland is an extraordinary, a breathtaking, a stupendous, an exhilarating and amazing place. I can't put together words to describe Neverland. True.
Same objections, Your Honor. First Amendment and the California Shield Law.
Do you wish to answer that question?
I don't, Your Honor.
Noted. Objection noted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bashir, to prepare the show you've just shown the jury where Michael Jackson says nothing sexual went on in his bedroom. You told him that you had an abiding sense that he is selfless and a most generous person, correct?
Same objections, Your Honor.
Do you wish to answer that question?
I don't, Your Honor.
Noted.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Bashir, to obtain the statement from Mr. Jackson that nothing sexual goes on in his bedroom, you described Neverland as a beautiful landscape encouraging all of us to become as little children again, true?
Objection, Your Honor, and I want to repeat my objection on the leading question ground, and I believe the improper form of the question, and again, reassert the California Shield Law's protection of unpublished information prepared and gathered in newsgathering, and the First Amendment.
The objection's overruled. Do you wish to answer?
I don't, Your Honor.
Mr. Bashir, to obtain Michael Jackson's statement that nothing sexual goes on in his bedroom with children, you complimented him for what he does for disadvantaged children from the ghetto, true?
Same objections, Your Honor.
Do you wish to answer?
I don't, Your Honor.
The objection is noted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just need to get one notebook, if I can, Your Honor. Mr. Bashir, to obtain the statement from Mr. Jackson that nothing sexual went on in his bedroom with children, you told him that you were going to arrange a meeting with Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations, and would plan a trip to Africa with Mr. Jackson and Kofi Annan to help African children with AIDS, true?
Same objections, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled. Do you wish to answer?
I don't, Your Honor.
The objection is noted.
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bashir, to obtain Mr. Jackson's statement that nothing sexual ever went on in his bedroom with children, you told him that you had great admiration for his visiting sick children in hospitals in England, true?
Same objections, Your Honor.
The objection's overruled. Do you wish to answer?
I don't, Your Honor.
The objection's noted.
Mr. Bashir, I would like to ask you further questions about how you obtained Michael Jackson's statement that nothing ever goes on in his bedroom that is sexual with children. Do you intend to not answer any questions along those lines?
Let me just say that I intend to continue making the same objections. If Mr. Mesereau is seeking to short-circuit the process, the First Amendment, the Shield Law, if that's helpful.
Do you intend to follow your counsel's advice on those issues?
I do, Your Honor.
Mr. Bashir, I would like to ask you questions about other statements Mr. Jackson made in your interview, and I would like to ask you about how you got face-to-face with him to obtain those statements. Are you saying that you are not going to respond to any such questions?
Just to make clear, he's doing so based on my assertions of the California Shield Law protecting the independence of journalists, as well as the First Amendment.
You would continue to object on those questions?
I would indeed, Your Honor. Thank you.
Would you continue to follow your counsel's advice?
I would, Your Honor.
Objection noted, Your Honor.
Noted.
Mr. Bashir, in the process of attempting to obtain statements from Mr. Jackson, you called him the boss, didn't you?
Same objections.
The objection's overruled. Do you wish to answer that?
I don't, Your Honor.
The objection's noted.
Mr. Bashir, do you intend to not answer any question I ask you on cross-examination in this trial?
To preserve the record, Your Honor, I will continue to object on the grounds which we believe are well-founded. And Mr. Bashir is acting on my instruction and my objections under the California Constitution and the U.S. Constitution.
Do you intend to follow his advice on all questions relating to this interview and the trial?
I do, Your Honor.
Mr. Bashir, have the answers you actually have given been 100% truthful?
I believe so.
Do you know for sure?
I think so.
Okay, now, while you were obtaining statements from Mr. Jackson, someone named Hamid Maslahi was present, true?
I reassert the objection I made during direct, Your Honor, which was First Amendment in California law. It's unpublished information. Observations of a journalist during the journalistic process is protected under the California Shield Law, including people who are in public places.
Do you wish to follow your counsel's advice?
I do, Your Honor.
And not answer the question?
I do, Your Honor.
The objections noted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bashir, in preparing for your testimony today, did you discuss what answers you would give with anyone other than your lawyer?
No.
To your knowledge, has anyone from the district attorney's office ever tried to contact you about your testimony in this case?
No.
To your knowledge, has anyone from the district attorney's office tried to to communicate with any representative of yours regarding your testimony in this case?
Your Honor, I will object, to the extent that calls for the attorney-client communication or attorney work product.
Sustained.
Mr. Bashir, have you discussed your testimony today with any representative of the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office?
I have not, sir.
Have you provided any statements to anyone associated with the prosecution?
I have not, sir.
Among the journalists you associate with at ABC, have you ever discussed with any of them what you were going to say in this courtroom?
I don't believe so.
You don't think so? Mr. Bashir, do you know for sure whether or not you ever discussed with any journalist at ABC what you were going to say in this courtroom?
Asked and answered, Your Honor.
I'm not sure it is. I'll have to go back to that series of questions. But I'm willing to do that, if you want.
I think he asked this question many times, if I'm hearing it correctly.
I think it's a little different, but let me look.
Okay.
Overruled. You may answer, but I'll have the question read back. It's been a while. Record read.
As far as I can recollect, I don't think I discussed what I was going to say in this courtroom, sir.
You used the words, as far as I can recollect. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you saying you have no present recollection of ever speaking with any journalist about what you were going to say in this courtroom?
That's correct, sir.
Is it possible you had a recollection at some other point in time about who you had spoken to?
Your Honor, that calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Mr. Bashir, did you review any documents to prepare for your testimony today?
No, I did not.
To your knowledge, has anyone from the district attorney's office sent you any documents regarding this case?
No, they have not, sir.
Okay. Have you ever spoken to District Attorney Thomas Mesereau?
Never.
Never said hello to him?
I think I may have said hello to him today.
When you arrived at court this morning, were you taken to any office associated with the district attorney?
I was taken to an office. I don't know if it was the district attorney's office, but I was taken with my attorneys to an office where we waited, because you were in session this morning. So we were waiting.
And when you got here today, did you meet anyone from the district attorney's office?
Not to my knowledge. We were given access by a female member of staff. We were left in a room. And when we were required to come down, we were invited to do so.
When you arrived, to your knowledge, did you meet anyone associated with the district attorney's office?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. Did anyone come up to you and introduce themselves as from the district attorney's office?
No.
Okay. Have you met any of the prosecutors who are sitting here today on a prior occasion?
No.
Did you meet them today for the first time?
I did, sir.
Okay. Have you ever spoken to any of them on the telephone?
Not the prosecutors, no.
Okay. How about the sheriffs?
I received a phone call from a police officer some time ago.
Who was that?
Detective Paul Zealous.
Did you speak to him on the telephone?
I did, sir.
And approximately when did you speak to Detective Paul Zealous on the telephone?
It was prior to my arrival at ABC, so it would have been during 2004.
Where were you when he called you?
I was in England.
Did you speak to him in England?
I did, sir.
How long was the phone conversation?
Very brief.
Okay. Have you ever spoken to him since?
No, but he did call again. He did call and leave a message, sir.
Is he the only person from the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office you've spoken to?
I believe so.
Do you know for sure?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Has anyone from the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office, to your knowledge, sent you any documents to review?
Never.
Who made arrangements for you to come here today, to your knowledge?
Objection to the extent it's an attorney-client communication or work product issue, Your Honor.
To the extent it is, I'll sustain the objection.
I made his hotel reservation.
Mr. Bashir, in how many locations did the filming take place that appears in your show?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, the film speaks for itself. It was on screen. The jury's seen it. Anything else is unpublished information covered by the Shield Law.
The objection is overruled. Do you wish to answer that?
The evidence of where we were filming was clear from the film, from the documentary which has just been shown.
Could I ask that the witness be instructed to answer, Your Honor?
You did not answer the question. Do you wish to answer the question?
Yes.
I will reassert my objections under the Shield Law, Your Honor. Again, it's just classic unpublished information. The film speaks for itself.
All right. Your objection is overruled. Do you wish to answer the question?
No, Your Honor.
The objections noted.
Did you fly to these locations with Mr. Jackson?
Same objection, Your Honor. First Amendment, Shield Law.
The objections overruled. Do you wish to answer?
No, Your Honor.
The objections noted.
Did you travel by car to any of the locations where you filmed any footage that appears in this documentary with Mr. Jackson?
Same objections, Your Honor. And I think in the last series of questions Mr. Mesereau has veered back into being far beyond the scope of direct. So I will again assert that that question was beyond the scope of direct examination, as were the last several.
Sustained.
Mr. Bashir, after this show appeared, you were sued by Mr. Jackson in England, correct?
Again, Your Honor, beyond the scope of direct and
Sustained.
Thank you.
Your Honor, in light of the refusal to answer questions, I'm going to terminate my cross-examination. But I would ask that the court order this witness back to appear as a defense witness.
I will order you to return at a time when the defense requests that you return. Is that a satisfactory? I'm assuming. I don't mean to say, is that satisfactory? I mean, is it a satisfactory way of handling? If you're willing to have your client appear and he's willing to appear on notice by the defense, then I'll release him under our normal convenience-type subpoenas. If not, I'd have to have him appear at a certain date to retain jurisdiction.
Your Honor, if I may step up here. Thank you. I guess two things. The defense has known for several weeks that the prosecutors had subpoenaed Mr. Bashir. And they had indicated they had put Mr. Bashir on their witness list, and I argued that the defense had not made the showing. I put them on notice that I planned to invoke the Shield Law and the First Amendment and that there were standards for them to meet. And they knew Mr. Bashir was going to be here. And for them now, he lives part of the time in the United Kingdom, part of the time in New York. To now make him come back seems unfair and burdensome, particularly without the defense making the requisite showing that they need to make in terms of necessity of his testimony, lack of alternative sources, the tests that they would need to make to justify piercing the reporter's privilege. So I would ask the court to reject that request.
I'll modify my order. I will order him to return. However, I will require the defense to file the appropriate application for subpoena, with the reasons, and allow you to file an opposition to that. But to just short-circuit the problem of actually serving him, I'll order him to appear under those conditions of previously announced, unless we advise him otherwise, if you succeed on your motion.
That makes sense, Your Honor. And just to clarify on the questions today, I think there were a number that he declined to answer on the Shield Law grounds. And I wanted to clarify that my objections also go to the questions being beyond the scope of direct testimony and wanted to clarify and make sure that we would have a chance to brief these issues, before the court makes a contempt ruling, to try to either.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The procedure I would intend to follow would be as indicated. I'll review the transcript and the law. If it appears that he's in contempt or, I will issue a contempt citation, and then you'll have your opportunity to be heard.
I just would like to have the chance to persuade you that the information was protected and no contempt citation should be issued before any contempt finding.
I will give you that opportunity.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I think we're talking about the same thing. There's a difference between citing him so you can speak to me through your written pleadings, and holding him in contempt. I'm not going to do the latter without giving you an opportunity to be heard.
Thank you, Your Honor. And my apologies to the jury for not having more creative or different objections every time. But thank you very much, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have further questions?
I think not, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down. You're not excused. You're on call subject to the arrangements that I've made with your counsel. Should you no longer need this counsel, you have the direct personal responsibility to me to return if I ask you to. Do you understand that?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our next witness will be Ann Kite, and she is on her way down from our office.
When you get to the witness stand, remain standing. Face the clerk and raise your right hand.
Yes, I do.
Please be seated. State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Ann Marie Kite, K-I-T-E. But I use Ann Gabriel as my professional name.
Good afternoon, Ms. Kite.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell me who you work for, please?
Currently.
Currently, yes.
I am the president of an organization called the Webcaster Alliance.
What is Webcaster Alliance?
Webcaster Alliance is a group of webcasters who play music on the Internet.
How long have you been employed with Webcaster?
Well, the organization's been in association for about 2 years, since 2002.
And in what capacity are you employed?
President.
And what are your duties as president of Webcaster Alliance?
To help move forward legislation to make it easier for people to be able to produce music and information on the Internet. Also to help people produce programming.
At some time prior to, well, maybe at the same time. At some point previously, were you the president of an organization called Gabriel Media?
Yes, that's correct.
What was Gabriel Media?
Gabriel Media was a public relations firm and a marketing firm.
And what was your role in Gabriel Media?
To help people and products get their information out to the public.
Basically PR.
Yes.
Public relations.
Yes.
Have you had a background in public relations?
Yes, I have.
Can you describe that for me, please?
Sure. For about the last 20 to 25 years I've been involved in a number of different businesses, all with the intention of helping people meet, take their products and move them to the public, to help them look better, to help them market themselves better.
Do you have a background that qualified you for that position?
Life experience. A lot of life experience. I've worked in a number of different businesses, specifically with products, to help people and their products reach the public.
All right. So when you say 20 years of experience in public relations, can you elaborate on that for me a little bit?
Certainly. I've had a number of different clients. For example, I went through a period where I did a lot of things with technology, high technology. Consumer products, both Sony and JVC, Panasonic. Those types of things. Then I also worked with some people who might be considered personalities, where I helped them to define their image to the public. I helped them if they got into a difficult position with their image in the public, and helped them make a plan to move themselves forward.
When you say personalities, does that include celebrities?
Yes.
All right. Can you tell me what the term crisis management means?
Well, crisis management is a different type of public relations. Crisis management comes about when you have someone, or a product or a person, who gets into a situation that is unexpected. And in the case of crisis management, you have to do a couple of different things. First of all, you want to try to analyze the assets of the client or the product, and then also their vulnerabilities, what areas might they be attacked on. And so crisis management is the, for lack of a better term, the difficult part of public relations, the difficult part of trying to help someone present themselves or their product to the public.
What do you mean when you say, the assets of a client?
Well, any client or any product has assets, the things that are good about them, the thing that the public perceives good about them.
In general terms, can you tell me what the goal of a public relations specialist is?
In general terms, on the best days, it is to make sure that your client's product, or their person, the personality, is always presented in the best light to the public.
And the purpose for that would be?
So that they can create things for themselves, whether they want to create more assets as far as dollar-wise, entertainment value, or whatever it is they're trying to sell. If it's themselves that they're trying to sell, you want to make sure they're always presented in the best light.
Is it fair to say that a celebrity's image is his stock in trade for purposes of marketability and selling whatever entertainment that particular celebrity is involved in?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Objection. Leading.
It's foundational, Your Honor.
Overruled. The answer was yes.
All right. Do you know an individual by the name of David LeGrand?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Kite, I show you People's Exhibit number 3. Can you identify that for me, please?
Yes, that's David LeGrand.
Move to admit People's 3, Your Honor.
No objection.
It's admitted.
How do you know David LeGrand?
David and I met in March of 2002, and we worked together on several projects.
What is Mr. LeGrand's occupation?
He's an attorney.
How did you meet him?
We met through a mutual friend.
Okay. And what projects did you work on?
Well, we worked on Webcaster Alliance together. David had a client that had some products that they were looking to sell, and he wanted me to look at their business plan and see how I could help them move forward with it, do some public relations with them on that. And then, of course, with Michael Jackson.
Okay. Was Mr. LeGrand affiliated with Webcaster Alliance?
Yes, he was.
In what capacity?
He was a director.
And what were the other associations you had with him in a business sense?
Well, we worked together in Washington, D.C. to put together legislation for webcasters.
Was that it?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a personal relationship with Mr. LeGrand?
Yes, I did.
And when did that begin?
In July of 2002.
And did that end at some point?
Yes, at the end of January of 2003.
Okay. Was that a dating relationship?
Yes, it was.
Something of that nature?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't write down the date. When did you say it ended?
At the end of January of 2003.
In January of 2003, well, let me back up. You mentioned an affiliation with Mr. LeGrand concerning Michael Jackson.
Yes.
When did that begin?
I don't understand your question. When was the first time that he mentioned anything to me about Michael Jackson?
When did you, well, let me back up. Did Mr. LeGrand himself become associated with Michael Jackson at some point?
Yes, he did.
When was that?
Officially.
As far as you know. In any fashion, let's start there.
As far as I knew.
Objection. Hearsay and foundation.
Foundation sustained.
All right. At some point, did David LeGrand recruit you to go to work for Michael Jackson?
Yes, he did.
Objection. Leading.
Sustained.
I can rephrase. At some time did Mr. LeGrand ask to employ you, to come work for Michael Jackson?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, he did.
All right. And when was that?
At the end of January of 2003.
And did you go to work for Michael Jackson?
Yes, I did.
When you say the end of January 2003 was when Mr. LeGrand approached you, do you have the approximate dates?
It was around the 27th, the 26th, the 27th of January.
In what capacity were you employed?
Public relations.
And at some point did you actually go to work for Michael Jackson?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
February 9th of 2003.
As a public relations employee for Michael Jackson, What was your job? What were you hired to do?
Objection. Misstates the evidence.
The preamble to the question.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sustained.
What were you hired to do?
To help with image management.
Okay. And was there a specific reason why Michael Jackson's image needed to be managed?
Objection. Foundation.
Sustained.
Were you informed as to what your duty was to manage Michael Jackson's public relations image?
Objection. Leading.
The objection's overruled. But you can only answer yes or no to that question. Do you want the question?
Yes.
Oh, you answered.
Okay. And what were you told?
I was told that there would.
Objection. Hearsay.
Still foundation also as to who told you.
Okay. And that's where we're, okay. Who told you what your assignment was to be as a public relations employee for Michael Jackson?
Objection. Foundation and hearsay. It misstates the evidence.
Overruled. You may answer.
Initially it was David LeGrand.
Alright. And what did Mr. LeGrand tell you your duties were?
Objection. Hearsay. Foundation.
Overruled. You may answer.
To help with the fallout from the Martin Bashir video.
Alright. What did you understand your duties were at that point?
To immediately begin protecting Mr. Jackson's reputation.
Did you research the issue, the problem?
Yes, I did.
Did you evaluate the problem?
Yes, I did.
Did you come up with a plan of attack?
Yes, I did.
Objection. Leading and privilege.
The leading is overruled. The other one I don't understand.
She's retained by a law firm. She's not supposed to be.
You're raising that privilege.
Yes. She's not supposed to be violating her duty of confidentiality.
Do you want to address the attorney-client privilege?
The attorney-client privilege has already been divulged to us, number 1. Number 2, counsel has not established that she was acting as an agency on behalf of the law firm in a legal capacity. This is an area that probably, if counsel wants to make that objection, he should have it briefed and address the court with points and authorities on it. In addition, Your Honor, I can.
She says she was hired by an attorney for Mr. Jackson, Your Honor. Mr. Jackson's never met her.
All right. The objection's overruled. You may proceed.
All right. So, my last question, if I can recall it correctly, was, what was the plan that you formulated to approach? Well, let me back up. Let me just start at the beginning here. You said you formulated an assessment of the problem. How did you go about doing that?
Well, I took a look at a lot of the press that was coming out, the information that was out in the media. I looked at what was being played most prominently, and figured that that was probably the most vulnerable area of attack for Mr. Jackson at that point. So I began to formulate a plan, based on my information of things that had come out in the press in the past, and to immediately try to take the focus off of Mr. Jackson's frailties as a human and put them back on his genius as a musician. That was my plan.
Okay. Did you sign a contract to come on as a PR specialist?
Yes, I did.
When did you do that? When was that contract signed?
In the afternoon of the 14th of February.
Did you become familiar with any other individuals who were also hired to work on the same problem?
Yes, I did.
Did you communicate with them?
Yes, I did.
Who were these people?
Ronald Conitzer, Mark Schaffel, Stuart Backerman, Melanie Riley, and Richard, I think it's Ildon, from Bell Yard. And a team of some other attorneys in the United Kingdom. During the course of your employment for Mr. Jackson, did you communicate with these individuals? Yes, I did. Did you communicate directly with Ronald Conitzer? Yes, I did. In what fashion? In what medium? Both by email and by telephone. Did you contact and speak directly with Mark Schaffel? Yes, I did. Did you also communicate with him by email? Yes, I did. How about Mr. Backerman? Yes, I did. Did you ever talk to an attorney by the name of Mark Garrigus? Yes, I did. Who did you report to? Who did you report to in terms of the hierarchy of this team? Well, I spoke to David. I spoke to Mark Schaffel. I spoke to Mr. Garrigus. And I spoke to Ronald.
So would it be fair to say, you reported to all of those 4 individuals?
Yes, at different times.
And Mr. Conitzer, did you have an understanding of what his function was in relation to Michael Jackson?
I understood that Mr. Conitzer was the lead.
Objection. Leading. And foundation.
Foundation. Sustained.
It's a yes or no question. I would follow with foundation.
Same objection.
All right, I'll allow a yes or no answer. Do you want the question read back?
Yes, please.
Okay. The question.
The court reporter will read it back. Thank you. Record read.
Yes.
All right. And what was it that you based that opinion on, or that assessment on?
Objection. Leading and foundation.
Overruled. You may answer.
On information that David had given me.
Okay. Did you also base it on information that you obtained in the course of conversing with Mr. Conitzer?
Yes, I did.
And Mr. Schaffel?
Yes, I did.
Did you base it on information that you obtained by way of emails from other members of the team?
Yes, I did.
And from Belliard?
Yes, I did.
Was it clear to you? Well, did you also base it upon the conduct of all of these individuals on the team that you previously mentioned?
Objection. Leading. Foundation.
Sustained. Leading.
Did you consider conduct as part of this assessment?
Same objection.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And based on all this information, did you form a belief or an understanding as to what Mr. Ronald Conitzer's role was in relation to Michael Jackson and this team that you've described?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
That he was the leader.
Also based on all that information that I've asked you about, were you able to form an opinion as to what Mr. Schaffel's role was in this team?
Yes. Yes, I did.
And what was that?
Objection. Foundation.
Overruled.
That he was in charge of the public relations effort for Michael Jackson.
Same question as to Mr. Backerman. Based on all the information you obtained during the course of your employment, were you able to form an assessment or did you obtain an understanding of what Mr. Stuart Backerman's role was?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
That he was the spokesperson for Mr. Jackson.
What's a spokesperson in the PR realm?
Well, in Mr. Backerman's case, it was my understanding that he would be the one that would, for the most part, get out and speak in front of the press.
So the actual face person that would be in front of the camera.
For the most part, yes.
All right. You previously said that you assessed the problem based upon your review of what?
The information that was coming out in the press.
Uh-huh.
The information that was coming from the Bashir documentary.
Uh-huh.
And the bombardment of questions that were coming from people in the press that were looking to delve into other aspects of Mr. Jackson's empire.
All right.
All right. We're going to stop for the afternoon.
Okay.
I have a couple of points I want to address. One is that the district attorney must lodge a transcript of the videotape that was played today with the court as soon as you can.
Judge, in order to do that, I'll need permission of the court to withdraw the exhibit so I can have a transcript made perfect.
Any objection to that?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
The second thing is that even though we are not redacting documents anymore, sealing documents, California Rule of Court 2073, which relates to the filing of documents on the Internet, which we do in this case, has some restrictions that you cannot put on the Internet. For example, addresses, phone numbers of parties. I'm not going to read the whole statute to you, but that's what I'm talking about. So when you file a document, you must file it. File a redacted version in compliance with California Rule of Court 2073 so that may be placed on the Internet. I don't intend to do any separate sealing orders, because it's a statutory requirement that you redact those. Any questions about that?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll recess until tomorrow morning. I'll see you tomorrow at 8:30.